universal truth and the absolute laws of nature, for guiding me, protecting me, and giving me the strength to endure the imperfect. I shall attack with vigor, making progressive moves. A divine mind knows, a divine mind shows. All things work in divine order. All things work in divine order. All things work in divine order. Peace and power. Salute, salute. How's everybody doing? How's everybody doing? Give me a second. I have to make sure no interruptions. I'll make sure the Wi-Fi is right and exact. Y'all still with me? Peace and power. How y'all doing? Big One, what up? Salute, salute, salute. Welcome. Welcome. Saturday Night Book Club. T, what up, T? Todd, what up? Brown Girl, what up, what up? Oh, yeah. It's Saturday night, so y'all know it's night for Book Club. Hey, Ryan. Hey, Kay. What's going on? Oh, damn. Ken, what's up? What's up? Okay. First of all, what up, Mark? First of all, I have to send out universal condolences to my family, to the Watkins family. We have had one of our elders transition. Very important elder, too. My aunt, great aunt, Alma Watkins. 103 rotations around the earth. Yes, she transitioned, and of course, when someone who has had such a wealth of information, right? Family information, is deep. But as the Watkins family goes, and as tight as we are, of course, we made an attempt every chance we got to speak to her, and she definitely kept us informed about many different events, accomplishments, and people, right? To who have been in our family. So to all the Watkins out in Sparta, Georgia, to all the Watkins that are in Harlem, the Bronx, Westchester County, Brooklyn, and Queens, and in Buffalo. Can't forget our Watkins out in Buffalo. Yeah, we embrace each other right during this time, and we'll celebrate, the legacy of the Watkins family. So salute to Aunt Alma. Salute, salute. Uh, y'all know what it is. It's Saturday night. Again, I appreciate everybody coming through to educate me and be educated with me. We have, up until this point, very successful engagement on Saturday nights. So we want to keep that. As I mentioned last week, doing a little bit of skipping around because of how intense the times are, the events that have been coming with quickness, with almost light speed. So my strategy is going to change a little bit as far as the order of the books. I believe at this point I will have to go from books that I consider basic foundations of awareness and consciousness to books that are very deep and hold more space mentally with people who pursue liberation and then go back to something a little bit more lighter, back to heavy, back to light, and keep going until we meet at the middle. So if there are any questions, you know, always feel free to ask. This is a educational environment, a love environment. So we seek, right? Love. Love is a supreme understanding amongst those who are original, amongst those who are conscious. So that's what we yearn for. So all questions, just definitely, you know, DM, email, you know, but I believe that the format that we're using, this read along format, is a space where it's very, very effective, right? Because I'm sure at this point, everyone who has been engaged, right, understands Asada. At this point, we know who she is, what she's done, her stance, where she's at. We understand that, right? So, and if not, this is YouTube. There's always spaces where you can go back and reference certain spots that you may have, not held on cap. All right? So now, again, moderators, as always, you're very appreciated. As folks come in, make sure they share the video, like, right, all of the information in it. Welcome them as they come through, and let's get busy. It's a very, very honest and at times a difficult read. But we're going to do everybody through. This is the wretched, the Fanon. As far as progressive, committed people who seek to liberate themselves and others, this is an absolute must read. It's not even a read. You have to digest this. And it's going to always be a point of reference. So, even though we are moving through this, because again, it is extensive, it can be difficult at times, it can be challenging, some of not the terms, but the way that they're infused and causes one to really, we're going to have a time. We're definitely going to have a time. So again, we're here to support one another, get a firm understanding, and to move, dig, and move through it. Right? So that's how I was always taught. I don't leave anything, any part out of a book. I just don't. All right? So we're going to start with the preface. I'm buffering. Wow. Anytime I'm buffering, you know what it is. It's purely the institutions that be at play here. Damn, Ryan. Slow down. You're very sharp. Very sharp. Cut it out. Okay. Apex. Salute. The preface written by Jean-Paul Sartre. All right? Jean-Paul Sartre. There, this is the preface, page 7. Kelton, salute. All right, hold on. Because I have a bit of a allergy or something. I don't know what's been going on for the past week with my throat. So, I'll keep that right. All right? For later, salute. Much appreciated. Chemo Luciano. Damn, I haven't seen. What up, D-Town? See you, Master. Peace. What's up? Salute. All right, let's get it in. Not so very long ago, the earth numbered 2,000 million inhabitants, 500 million men, and 1,500 million natives. The former had the word, the others had the use of it. Between the two, there were hired kinglets, overlords, and a bourgeoisie sham from the beginning to end, which served as go-betweens. In the colonies, the truth stood naked, but the citizens of the mother country preferred it with clothes on. The native had to love them, something in the way mothers are loved. The European elite undertook to manufacture a native elite. They picked out promising adolescents. They branded them, as with a red hot iron, with the principles of Western culture. They stuffed their mouths full with high-sounding phrases, grand, gluttonous words that stuck to the teeth. After a short stay in the mother country, they were sent home, whitewashed. These walking lies had nothing left to say to their brothers. They only echoed. From Paris, from London, from Amsterdam, we would utter the words, brotherhood. And somewhere in Africa or Asia, lips would open. All right? Brotherhood. It was the golden age. It came to an end. The mouths opened by themselves, the yellow and black voices still spoke of our humanism, but only to reproach us with our inhumanity. We listened without displeasure to these polite statements of resentment, at first with proud amazement. What? They are able to talk by themselves? Just look at what we have made of them. We did not doubt, but that they would accept our ideals, since they accused us of not being faithful to them. Then, indeed, Europe could believe in her mission. She had allied the Asians. She had created a new breed, the Greco-Latin Negroes. Between ourselves and of the world, after all, let them brawl their heads off. It leaves the feelings, though in this sense, you have to go deep. I always do when I'm home and reading and digesting and researching. I'm telling you, book club helps me because it keeps me moving. I have a tendency to read things 2 or 3 times while I'm in it. All right, while I'm in it, 2 or 3 times I'm going to read a single paragraph. So book club allows me to keep moving. You understand? It is something that goes deep, and I want you to attempt to understand what I'm saying while I'm going through it, because this part right here is deep. It's essentially saying what we are witnessing now when we are calling people coons, when we are calling people toms, when we're saying that people are not B1, that they don't identify anymore with who they are, when we're saying that they are asleep. You understand? That's what we are saying here when they talking about Latin on Latin crime, black on black crime. Let them fight and brawl their heads off. It relieves their feelings. And dogs that bark don't bite, which means let them protest, let them burn where they reside, as long as they're not directing the fight towards who they're supposed to. So again, this is a jump. So I want y'all to stick with me as we moving. All right? A new generation came on the scene, which changed the issue. With unbelievable patience, its writers and poets try to explain to us that our values and the true facts of their lives did not hang together, and that they could neither reject them nor reject them completely, nor yet assimilate them. By and large, what they were saying was this: you are making us into monstrosities. Your humanism claims we are at one with the rest of humanity, but your racist methods set us apart. Very much at our ease, we listened to them all. Colonial administrators are not paid to read Hegel, and for that matter, they do not read much of him. But they do not need a philosopher to tell them that uneasy consciences are caught up in their own contradiction. All right? They will not get anywhere. So let us perpetuate their discomfort. Nothing will come of it but talk. If they were, the experts told us, asking for anything at all precise in their wailing, it would be integration. Of course, there is no question of granting that. The system, which depends on overexploitation, as you know, would be ruined. But it's enough to hold the carrot in front of their noses. They'll gallop all right. As to a revolt, we need not worry at all. What native in his senses would go off to massacre the fair sons of Europe simply to become European as they are? In short, we encourage these disconsolate spirits as thought it not a bad idea for one to award the pricks Goncourt to a Negro. That was before 39, as in 1939. All right? You see how they talk? I want you 1961. Let us waste no time in nauseating mimicry. They are never done talking of man. Yet murder men everywhere they find them, at the corner of every one of our, every one of their own streets, in all the corners of the globe. For centuries, they have stifled almost the whole of humanity in the name of a so called spiritual experience. The tone is new. Who dares to speak thus? It is an African, a man from the third world, ex native. He adds, Europe now lives at such a mad, reckless pace that she is running headlong into the abyss. We would do well to keep away from it. In other words, she's done for. A truth which is not pleasant to state, but of which we are all convinced, are we not, fellow Europeans, in the marrow of our bones? All right? We must, however, make one reservation. When a Frenchman, for example, says to other Frenchmen, the country is done for, quote unquote, which has happened, I should think almost every day since 1930, it is emotional talk, burning with love and fury. The speaker includes himself with his fellow countrymen. And yet, usually, he adds, unless his meaning is clear, no more mistakes made. If the instructions are not carried out to the letter, then and only then will the country go to pieces. In short, it is a threat followed by a piece of advice, and these remarks are so much the less shocking in that they spring from a national intersubjectivity. But on the contrary, when Fanon says of Europe, far from sounding the alarm, he is merely setting out a diagnosis. The doctor neither claims that she is a hopeless case. Miracles have been known to exist. Nor does he give her the means to cure herself. He certifies that she is dying on external evidence, founded on symptoms that he can observe. Now, I want y'all to keep acknowledging the language and how it goes back and forth, first, second, third person, and who is basically speaking of, right? And as Fanon, who is a doctor, is not speaking in terms of a cure for the oppression. You understand me? What he is doing is giving a diagnosis and setting in clear understanding for those who are reading, observing, and watching the symptoms, which is what we fail to acknowledge here. The symptoms of our oppression in the United States of America. We continue looking at in small instead of acknowledging that the symptoms are large, and we make an attempt to attack that instead of the disease. So, tribe, we know what the disease is. Our disease, right, is what some might term or deem white supremacy. That's a disease. It's a sickness. It's a sick mind. But when we attack it, we're attacking the symptoms of it because it's multi-layered. So instead of going directly at it, as we supposed to, but because of poor leadership or not having the proper tools, we have been in a space where we are raised up to only fight symptoms because the symptoms we see and trigger us emotionally to respond. All right? So again, we're in a very, very specific space when we're dealing with oppression, colonizers, and things of the such here in this space because none of us owns this space here. So even when you look at it from an aspect of colonization, that's not right and exact because they didn't colonize anybody here because they didn't have specific think tank specific ideologies or doctrines and ways of actions. This was a stumbled upon. They didn't even know where they were on the planet exactly. So it wasn't a fact of colonizing, it was extermination and enslavement. We're in a very different space, which is why we continuously fail when we attempt at fixing it. Because we have a different, distorted gaze. All right? As to curing her, no. He has other things to think about. He does not give a damn whether she lives or dies, speaking on the oppressor or colonizer, right? Her is the Europe and the European, right? Because of this, his book is scandalous. And if you murmur, jokingly embarrassed, quote unquote, he has it in for us. The true nature of the scandal escapes you. For Fanon has nothing in for you at all. His work, red hot for some, in what concerns you is as cold as ice. He speaks of you often, never to you. The black Goncourts and the yellow nobles are finished. The days of colonized laureates are over. An ex-native, French-speaking, bends the language to new requirements, makes use of it, and speaks to the colonized only. Quote, natives of all underdeveloped countries unite. End quote. What a downfall for the fathers. We alone were the speakers. The sons no longer even consider us as valid intermediaries. We are the objects of their speeches. Of course, Fanon mentions in passing our well-known crimes, Sétif, Hanoi, Madagascar. But he does not waste his time in condemning them. He uses them. If he demonstrates the tactics of colonialism, the complex play of relations which unite and oppose the colonialists, the colonists, to the people of the mother country, it is for his brothers. His aim is to teach them to beat us at our own game. So this is Jean Paul speaking of Fanon in his preface. And he had them shook to death. Shook to death. All right? In short, the third world finds itself and speaks to itself through his voice. We know that it is not a homogeneous world. We know, too, that enslaved peoples are still together, some who have achieved a similar, simulacrum of phony independence, others who are still fighting to attain sovereignty, and others again who have obtained complete freedom, but who live under the constant menace of imperialist aggression. These differences are born of colonial history. In other words, of oppression. Here, the mother country is satisfied to keep some feudal rulers in her pay. There, dividing and ruling, she has created a native bourgeoisie sham from the beginning to end. Elsewhere, she has played a double game. The colony is planted with settlers and exploited at the same time. Thus, Europe has multiplied divisions and opposing groups, has classes and sometimes even racial prejudices, and has endeavored by every means to bring about and intensify the stratification of colonized societies. Fanon hides nothing. In order to fight, against us, the former colony must fight against itself. The part of a whole. I'm serious when it comes to this. Our hoods, our wards. Do you understand what's going on? Clearly, and again, I'll keep saying it, anyone who speaks separation between us, that is your enemy. Whether they are doing it directly and know what they're doing, or they are indirectly doing it through their ignorance. We have no time for separation. The only individuals we need to separate from is those who wish to stymie our life, those who wish to murder us, those who wish to halt our potential to be greater. That enemy. In the heat of battle, all internal barriers break down. The puppet bourgeoisie of businessmen and shopkeepers, the urban proletariat, which is always in a privileged position. The lumpen proletariat of the shanty towns, hoods, ghettos, wards, all fall into line with the stand made by the by the rural masses, that veritable reservoir of a national revolutionary army. For in those countries where colonialism has deliberately held up development, the peasantry, when it rises, quickly stands out as the revolutionary class. For it knows naked oppression and suffers far from it than the workers in the towns. And in order not to die of hunger, it demands no less than the complete demolition of all existing structures. In order to triumph, the national revolution must be socialist. If its career is cut short, if the native bourgeoisie takes over power, the new state, in spite of its formal sovereignty of the imperialists. The example of Katanga illustrates this quite well. Thus, the unity of the third world is not yet achieved. It is the prize of the union in each country. After independence, as before, of the whole of the colonized people under the command of the peasant class. This is what Fanon expressed to his brothers in Latin America. We must achieve revolutionary socialism altogether everywhere, or else, one by one, we will be defeated by our former masters. He hides nothing, neither weaknesses nor mystification. Here, the movement gets off to a bad start. There, after a striking initial success, it loses momentum. Elsewhere, it has become, it has come to a standstill. And if it is to start again, the peasants must throw their bourgeoisie overboard. The reader is sternly put on his guard against the most dangerous will-o'-the-wisp, the cult of the leader and of personalities, Western culture, and what is equally to be feared, the withdrawal into the twilight of past African culture. For the only true culture is that of the revolution. That is to say, it is constantly in the making. Fanon speaks out loud. We, Europeans, can hear him, as the fact that you hold this book in your hand proves. Is he not then afraid that the colonial powers may take advantage of his sincerity? No, he fears nothing. Are out of it, can sometimes display emancipation, but not, and do not think that we can change our ways. Neo-colonialism, that I dream of mother countries, is a lot of hot air. The quote-unquote third forces don't exist. Or if they do, they are only the tin pot bourgeoisie that colonialism has already placed in the saddle. Our Machiavellianism has little purchase on this wide awake world that has run our falsehoods to earth, one after the other. The settler has the settler has only recourse of one thing, brute force. When the native has only one choice between servitude or supremacy. Does Fanon care that you read his work or not? It is his brothers that he denounces our old tricks. It's sure we have no more sleeves. It is to them he said, quote, has laid her hands on our continents, and we must slash at her fingers till she lets go. It's a good moment. Nothing can happen at Bizerta, at Elizabethville, or in the Algerian blend that the whole world does not hear about. Us take opposite sides and hold each other in check. Let us take advantage of this process. Let us burst into history, forcing it by our invitation to universality for the first time. Let's start fighting. And if we know the waiting knife's enough, end quote. So, you see, I always say there's no gray area. No gray area. You understand? You have to keep moving. Remain militant. There is no can't. There is no wait. There is no not. It is remaining militant. It is consistently moving forward. Again, keep slashing her hands, slashing at her fingers till she lets go. So we don't have time to sit back and chase no bag. We don't. It's constant, consistent battle. Consistent. When we look at police shooting black men down, black women down in their sleep, can't protest that for a summer. Can't march 2 or 3 times, think you want to get rid of that. No. That is a symptom of their lower level, their lowest level, their most ignorant, their most brutal, that's the most brutal pieces of oppression, of supremacy, of colonization. That's basic. Basic. Emotional charge by that. Am I buffering that bad? Thank you, CJ. Right? Yeah, they're playing a lot of games. They're playing a lot of games. Look, that's what it is. I'm telling you, when we are spitting energy, we're encouraging, you're going to get glitches and buffering when you spitting truth through the matrix. That's just what it is. And, you know, we may struggle through it tonight, but y'all understand what it is. You get it. And if you go back and replay the still buffering, then you're going to understand. You know what I'm saying? We do what we do. Portland, Jamaica. On in the yard. Salute, salute. Yes, right. Enough respect. Enough respect. Portland. Enough respect. Never defeated. Ever. Let's continue. Europeans, you must open this book and enter into it. You see how they tell, right? Tell them to read and study us. So how they instruct themselves, and instruct their people to read and study us, and we don't read and study each other. Listen to what Jean Paul is saying. This is a Frenchman talking about Fanon. After a few steps into the darkness, you will see strangers gathered around a fire. Come close and listen, for they are talking of the destiny they will met out to your trading centers and to the hired soldiers who defend them. They will see you, perhaps, but they will go on talking among themselves without even lowering their voices. This indifference strikes home. Their fathers, shadowy creatures, your creatures, were but dead souls. You, it was who allowed them glimpses of light. To you only did they dare speak, and you did not bother to reply to such zombies. Their sons ignored a fire on them and shed light around them, and you have not lit it. Now, at a respectful distance, it is you who will feel furtive and perish with cold. Turn about in these shadows from whence a new dawn will break. It is you who are the zombies. Like I said, nothing is permanent in the space of dehumanizing. People may win for decades, centuries, but at a given point, those who have felt the sting of injustice will rise and do what is necessary to keep themselves sustained, fed, clothed. Understand that. I understand that. And go on. In this case, you will say, let's throw away this book. Why read it if it is not written for us? Fanon explains to his brothers and shows them the mechanism by which we are estranged from ourselves. Take advantage of this and get to know yourselves seen in the light of truth objectively. Our victims know us by their scars and by their chains. And it is this that makes their evidence irrefutable. It is enough that they show us what we have made of them for us to realize what we have made of ourselves. But is it any use? Yes, for Europe is at death's door. But, you will say, we live in a mother country, and we disapprove of her excesses. It is true, you are not settlers, but you are no better, for the pioneers belong to you. You sent them overseas, and it was you they enriched. You warned them that if they shed too much blood, you would disown them, or say you did, in something of the same way as any state maintains abroad a mob of agitators, agent provocateurs, and spies whom it disowns when they are caught. All right? Same shit in the conscious community, same shit in hip hop. Once they finish with them, disown them, they send them back to the hood. But we have been in a space where we have given them passes. Can't do that shit anymore. No more excuses. No more looking at them as persons of pity. Hell no. When they have committed these crimes against us, and that protection of white supremacy is gone, y'all know what y'all supposed to do. Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah, North Carolina. You who are so liberal and so humane, who have such an adoration of culture that it verges on affectation, you pretend to forget that you own colonies and that men entered in your Fanon reveals to us, above all, to some of them who are rather to westernized the solidarity of the people of mother country and of their representatives in the colonies. Have the courage to read this book, for in the first place, it will make you ashamed, and shame for in the and shame, as Marx said, is a revolutionary sentiment. You see, I too am incapable of ridding myself of subjective illusions. I too say to you, all is lost unless, as a European, I steal the enemy's book, and out of it, I fashion a remedy for Europe. Make the most of it. And here is the second reason. If you set aside Sorel's fascist utterances, you will find that Fanon is the first since Engels to bring the process of history into the clear light of day. Moreover, you need not think that hotheadedness or an unhappy childhood has given him some uncommon taste for violence. He acts as the interpreter of the situation. That's all. But this is enough to enable him to constitute dialectic which liberal hypocrisy hides from you and which is as much responsible for our existence as for his. Listen, listen, it gets deep. It gets deep. It gets deep. It gets deep, deep. So, on the preface, right there, right? Allow y'all, right? And allow y'all to complete on what page we on? That was the page 14. That was page 14. Right? And excuse me for the audio being in and out. That was page 14 of the preface. Right? So now, get to verse 35 concerning violence, because Ryan is so hyped. I keep hearing the audio is choppy. There's nothing I can do. So pardon the audio, pardon the buffering, whatever is going on. It gotta be something in Brooklyn. So my apologies, because I've had friends in other sections of Brooklyn say the same thing is going on in their homes. So we just have to struggle through it, you know, the best we can, and keep it moving. Again, is it Janik? This is Saturday Night Book Club. This is book 2. This is The Wretched of the Earth. Frantzfanon. All right? So you don't have a copy in your library, which you should, you can order it anywhere. All right? And again, thank you for joining us. And, again, since Ryan is so hyped, we have to get into Concerning Violence, chapter, page 35. Ready? Shake it up. Stretch. Shake it out your mind. I know it's a lot. Right? Shake it out. Thank you, Ryan. All right? And we're getting close on the 1 hour mark. Here we go. We have an hour. Concerning violence, because again, I may come back on. We may have a little lighter discussion, something similar to last night. So, and I'll see if it's still buffering. If it still buffers, then we'll know that's just wilding tonight. All right? So, concerning violence, national liberation, national renaissance, the restoration of nationhood to the people, commonwealth, whatever may be the headings used to introduce, decolonization is always a vital phenomenon between individuals who names the human admixture in the police, on the directing boards of national or private banks. Decolonization is quite simply the replacing of certain species of men by another species of men. Without any period of transition, there is total, complete, and absolute substitution. It is true that we could equally well stress the rise of a new nation, the setting up of a new state, its diplomatic relations, and its economic and political trends. But we have precisely chosen to speak of that kind of tabula rasa which characterizes at the outset all decolonization. Its unusual importance is that it constitutes, from the very first day, the minimum demands of the colonized. To tell the truth, the proof of success lies in a whole social structure being changed from the bottom up. Excuse me. The extraordinary importance of this change is that it is willed, called for, demanded. The need for this change exists in its crude state, impetuous and compelling, in the consciousness and in the lives of the men and women who are colonized. But the possibility of this change is equally experienced in the form of a terrifying future in the consciousness of another species of men and women, the colonizers. Decolonization, which sets out to change the order of the world, is obviously a program of complete disorder. But it cannot come as a result of magical practices, nor of a natural shock, nor of a friendly understanding. Decolonization, as we know, is a historical process. That is to say, that it cannot be understood. It cannot become, right, intelligible nor clear to itself except in the exact measure that we can discern the movements which it gives historical form and content. Decolonization is the meeting of two forces opposed to each other by their very nature, which in fact owe their originality to that sort of substantification which results from and is nourished by the situation in the colonies. Substitute colonies for ghettos, for wards, for hoods, for projects. All right? That's what you substitute colonies for. All right? You understand? You get me? Substitute colonies for wards, for ghettos, for projects, for the hood. Their first encounter was marked by violence and their existence together. That is to say, the exploitation of the native by the settler was carried on by dint of a great array of bayonets and cannons. The settler and the native are old acquaintances. In fact, the settler is right when he speaks of knowing, quote unquote, them well. For it is the settler who was brought the native into existence and who perpetuates his existence. The settler owes the fact of his very existence, that is to say, his property, to the colonial system. Decolonization never takes place unnoticed, for it influences individuals and modifies them fundamentally. It transforms spectators with their essentiality into privileged actors, with their grandiose glare of history's floodlights upon them. It brings a natural rhythm into existence, introduced by new men, and with it a new language and a new humanity. Decolonization is the vertical creation of new men, but this creation owes nothing of its legitimacy to any supernatural power. The thing which has been colonized becomes man during the same process by which it frees itself. Do you understand that? Give me some blue hearts if you understand it. Give me some blue hearts if you understand that. I'll read it again. Decolonization is the vertical creation of new men. But this creation owes nothing of its legitimacy to any supernatural power. The thing which has been colonized during the same process by which it frees itself. All right? All right? All right? Y'all get it? Once you call yourself a man, woman, you already have made yourself an op in the eyes, right? In the eyes of those who seek to oppress you. You have to understand that. You have to understand that. Yes, Ryan, a violent process without exception. It is what it is. Again, if you are ignorant to your existence and do not know that you have made them your op by your unwillingness to fold, by your unwillingness to work in their corporations, by your unwillingness to be fearful when they come around, it is on you. It is on you. That is your error. You have to know what you're saying when you call yourself conscious and woke. Have to. If you do not understand that, you will cause yourself grief. Your awareness and your consciousness have to be birthed in the same space at the same time, and you have to know what you are saying. You have to understand what you are saying. When you say when you say you are self-reflecting, self-governing, holistically healing, seeing these things, you have made yourself an op. And everything is thrown at you. No, you don't get the right tax returns. No, you don't get position at work. No, your children are not safe in the streets. No, that nigga that you call your man is not going to act right. None of those things will fall under your care. You do not uphold the systems and institutions that bring that magical fantasy shit to fruition. You are any of that. So expect none of that. Your healing, your happiness, your growth comes from you being a rebel. That's what it is. That's what it is. Understand that. Understand that. Your goals, their level of success. That's just what it is. Understand that. Okay. Oh yeah. You know? This is what these titles do. Encourage thought and encourage you to be your best. Let's continue. In decolonization, there is therefore the need of a complete calling in question of the colonial situation. If we wish to describe it precisely, we must find it in the well-known words, quote, the last shall be first and the first last, end quote. Decolonization is the putting into practice of this sentence. That is why if we try to describe it, all decolonization is successful. And you understand that? All decolonization is successful. Of decolonization evokes for us the searing bullets and blood-stained knives which emanate from it. For if the last shall be first, this will only come to pass after a murderous and decisive struggle between the two protagonists. That intention to place the last at the head of things and to make them climb at a pace too quickly, some say, the well-known steps which characterize an organized society, can only triumph if we use all means to turn the scale, including, of course, that of violence. And we're going to have to pause. Book club tonight. We're going to have to, because look, I'm telling you, as I sit here on this steamy Saturday night, you dig what I'm saying? You have to understand exactly what is going on with where this book is taking you. You get it? You understand me? You have to. You have to. Pace yourself when we're dealing with this right here. It's a pace that can be elevated at specific points. So we're going to walk slowly through this process right here. that's what we're going to do. It's going to be a slow walk. All right? Not going to get ahead of it. Understand where we're going with it. Understand where we're going with it. All right? You dig? That's what it is. So again, we're going to pause right here on concerning violence. Second paragraph. Mars, you got it. Second paragraph, page 37, concerning violence. Everyone finish the preface on your own. Finish the preface on your own. That's going on. With this, we'll sort it out. I'm going to make an attempt. We need 10 minutes. What I'm going to do is reset the Wi-Fi. And if it's just in my house, we'll find out. But again, I've been hearing about it in other sections of Brooklyn. And we just understand we're in a different time, a different stage of the game now. So anything can be used to make our education process difficult. That's what's going to happen. They're going to do it. So it stops nothing. It stops nothing. Again, we go to IG. You can come to IG and see what happens there. And 66 and all 66 should be on Instagram. LG. Right? Before we go, can you tell me the name of the book that you read faithfully every day? Blood in my eye. Blood in my eye. Matter of fact, it's right there by my bed. I usually have 3 copies. I'm telling you. Well, I know what happened. I took one down south. So it's in the other room. All right? It's in the other room. But Blood in My Eye, George L. Jackson. I read that every day. Okay? So, like I said, 66 in here. Y'all should be all my. So let's go over there and see if we still have the same difficulty. Moderators. Don't believe in me, believe in my belief in you. Thank you for this. Bookclub. Share, leave comments, likes, all that. Let's get to IG.